After years of humiliation, France had a new king. Charles V, known as the Wise, understood that he could not defeat the English by sheer force, and the king had a sword to enforce his will. Bertrand du Guesclin, a skilled warrior who was entrusted with implementing a new strategy. Instead of large battles, Charles V adopted a strategy of attrition. They focused on sieges and guerrilla warfare, slowly reclaiming territory without direct confrontation. Castle by castle, town by town, the French gradually regained what they had lost. Charles V's strategic patience paid off, exploiting England's internal problems and gradually turning the tide. The French strategy of attrition exhausted and angered the English. They were used to decisive victories, not battles of shadows. In response, the English launched brutal raids, but these actions only fueled French hatred and brought no strategic advantage. But as France recovered, a more dangerous seed was born: civil war and factional strife. Factional rivalries culminated in political assassinations, plunging France into full-scale civil war. At the same time, England was weakened by internal problems, with an aging king and noble factions vying for influence. The departure of talented leaders on both sides left a power vacuum, plunging both kingdoms into a long period of instability. The second phase of the war ended in a strange situation. France had recovered much of its lost territory, but was torn apart from within. And in the chaos, a new generation of English leaders, aggressive and ambitious, awaited their moment. A new king had ascended to the throne in England. Henry V, a seasoned warrior and ruthless leader, had reignited the war with renewed determination. Unlike his previous campaigns of attrition, Henry V sought a decisive victory to assert his claim to the French crown. He exploited the chaos of the French Civil War to advance his claims. By negotiating with the Burgundians, Henry V ensured that his enemies would be divided and unable to present a united front. In 1415, Henry V assembled one of the largest invasion armies England had ever seen. With France ravaged by civil war, the time had come for a decisive attack. The landing went smoothly, and Henry's army began to advance deep into French territory. Their first target, the port of Harfleur. But the siege would be much longer and more costly than expected, sowing the seeds of disaster to come. The Siege of Harfleur dragged on longer than expected. Every inch of ground gained was paid for in blood, and an even more deadly, silent enemy, dysentery. Dysentery ravaged the English ranks, killing more men than French swords. When Harfleur fell, Henry had the port he wanted, but his army was depleted. Faced with a choice between a safe retreat and a risky march, Henry chose the most dangerous route to prove his point. The march to Calais became a race against time, disease, and the French army. The French, in no hurry, had assembled a large army to block the way. They simply lured their prey into a trap they had set. Near a village called Agincourt, the trap fell. It was the night before St. Crispin's Day. On one side lay the silence of those who knew they might die. On one side was the arrogance of those who believed victory was certain. October 25th, 1415. Facing a much larger French army, in unfavorable conditions, Henry V knew that he had to win the battle of the mind before the actual battle began. The marshy terrain became an unlikely ally of the English, slowing and breaking up the French cavalry charge. And then, the English archers, protected by wooden stakes, unleashed their signature blow. As at Crecy, the effectiveness of the longbow was eloquently demonstrated. Even those who survived the first volley were nearly exhausted by the time they reached the English lines. The battle now turned into a close-quarters battle, where speed defeated weight. In this battle, the common soldiers rose in importance, undermining the military prestige of the feudal nobility. Seeing the disaster unfold, the rest of the French army disintegrated. The Battle of Agincourt ended in a resounding, almost unbelievable victory for the English, and was one of the greatest military disasters in French history. After Agincourt, Henry V was unstoppable. With the French nobility destroyed and the country divided, he set out to conquer Normandy. In Paris, the French monarchy collapsed. King Charles VI was seriously ill, leaving a power vacuum that the English and their allies were eager to fill. The division of France was sealed when the powerful Burgundians formally allied themselves with the English invaders. In 1420 at Troyes, what remained of the French government accepted the victor's terms. The Treaty of Troyes was signed. It declared Henry V the rightful heir to the French crown. The king's son, Charles, was declared illegitimate and stripped of his rights to the throne. Henry's marriage to Catherine of Valois united the two crowns, but it was a union built on conquest. France was now under English control, virtually ending its independence. For the outcast crown prince and his remaining loyalists, all hope seemed lost.